if you're a Christian, or if you're not a Christian, this is for you. I'm going to keep this really short and sweet. I spent my whole life in Christian ministry. I gave my life to the Lord when I was 11 years of age. I've been to seminary. I've worked with different denominations. I've been a pastor. I've planted my own fellowship in the inner city of downtown Auckland. I've been doing this a little while. I've had a Bible ministry that's about to turn 25 years old. I think next year or the year after. I've been giving away the Bible for free, teaching the Bible for a very long time. But 6 years ago, I got to this point in my studies that I realized, I actually want to take these off because, you can't really see my eyes very well there anyway, but a little bit better maybe. About 6 years ago, I got to this point where my studies of the text, the Bible, were starting to suggest that there was something very seriously wrong with Christianity. Not the Bible, not God, not Jesus, Yeshua, but Christianity, this narrative. What is Christianity really? It's an explanatory mechanism, right? It's a bunch of ideas that people have thought about the last 2,000 years, and they've kind of put it together and said, this explains these other things. We've been thinking about it, and this is what we're going to tell you about all these other things. About the Bible itself, about the history of God and the Jews, about Jesus when he came 2,000 years ago, and about all these other things that have come about over the last 2,000 years. That whining in the background is one of my chickens. Hey, Chirpy. So, what you doing? Did you lay us an egg? Thank you. We appreciate you. My studies started to show me that a lot of the things that this explanatory mechanism we're talking about, like the Bible being the Word of God, like the Trinity being a real thing, like Yahweh of the Old Testament and his identity. Hey, Chirpy, you want to come over here and say hello? I know you won't, but... I don't know if you can hear that with the microphone or not. But and so you start to see some of these things that have literally come about over the last 2,000 years. And the more I started to understand a holistic view of the Bible, the more I read it. I've read the Bible a great many times. And as you start to memorize it and you start to know what is all there, which you cannot get just from reading once or twice or three times or something. It's got to be a lifelong practice to constantly read the text. And I read the text and I listen to the text at high speed in audio, which is great because you get a big overview very quickly. And the more of it you know, the more the big picture starts to form, starts to take place, right? And it was that big picture that I knew I couldn't actually see quite yet, but was starting to form. I was getting to this point where I was like, these things that we teach, that I teach, that I've taught all my life in Christianity, they don't actually seem to be true. And it's not the fault of the Bible, and it's not the fault of like accepting that God is real, whatever God means, but it was more that this explanatory mechanism, which really, even though some people will go, oh, that's a load of nonsense, look, the Roman Empire extremely influenced everything that a modern Christian believes. The modern Protestant Christian is a Catholic, and we can talk about Martin Luther's Reformation, but what happened there 500 years ago? A Catholic priest took issue with 95 separate points of Catholicism and said, don't think these things are actually correct. And today, Protestants everywhere owe Martin Luther for their heritage. Your faith came out of Catholicism. But when we look at Catholicism versus Protestantism today, what's the differences? There's very little differences. instead of Martin Luther going much further and actually starting to question some of the more foundational precepts of this explanatory mechanism, he just left it there, and here we are today, 500 years later. Well, in all humility, I want to start a 21st century reformation. And this time we're not just going to, clip around the edges. We want to take a solid look. What does the Bible actually say? What can we learn from extra biblical sources? Why would we discount those? Only a cult would tell you that, well, you read our book, here it is, the one we've authorized, and you can't read anything else. You can't look at all the ancient archaeology. We can't go to Egypt and look at the pyramids and hieroglyphs and understand what was going on in Egypt and their gods, their pantheon of gods and so forth. Can't do that. We can't go all around the world to all of these archaeological sites, these incredible cities that were built that we don't even know who did it or how long ago it was, but there's all this evidence there. And we find carved into stone a lot of the evidence of these different pantheons of gods that are the same people in the different pantheons of gods all around the world. So we can go to the Mesopotamian region in the Middle East and we can see that these Babylonian and Akkadian and Sumerian gods are all the same people, but they also happen to be the same gods as we find in Hinduism. We can go down to Mexico to the Toltec warriors, and we can see we've got the exact same gods there. And everywhere we look and we find these major pantheons around the world from different time periods, we find the same grouping of gods. A father and two sons, always involved with the tree of life, holding the fruit of the tree of life in one hand, a handbag that contains the fruit of the tree of life in the other, standing before the tree of life, this winged disc that so often features across the world. And we can go to Hinduism and we can see carvings of statues there of Shiva and Vishnu sitting underneath the tree of life with the same shaped fruit in the tree that we see in other parts of the world, with handbags hanging off of the branches and the god leaning up against the tree. I started to learn all about this. I got this moment, as I said, 6 years ago, where I just went, wait, I just want to start from scratch. I want to start over. I want to know what is real. That's what I'm about. Now, the funny thing is that what my studies have shown, and without bias, I had just gone, okay, look, I'm starting with a blank slate. And I cried out and said, show me what is real. And the interesting thing is, the thing that I have discovered that is real is Jesus is real, and his Father is real, but the religious systems that have been built up around it, particularly the Christian narrative, it's not just wrong. It omits the most important parts of the whole story. And it doesn't just omit the most important parts of the whole story. It adds in all of these other parts that have never had anything to do with the story and are modern inventions. Yeah, the Trinity is a good one. There'll be bunches of people that will put below, or here's what you don't understand about the Trinity. Dude, I taught this all my life. Please. There's a lot of people that are in faith that don't have intellectual honesty. And if God is the God of all truth, there's no problem with intellectual honesty. There's no problem with being honest with what is there. Yahweh never spoke about a Trinity. Jesus never spoke about a Trinity. The Bible, from beginning to end, doesn't mention anything about a Trinity. The early church never believed in any such thing as a Trinity. We do today. Well, isn't that interesting? That's just one example. Yahweh is probably a more fundamental example. Christians believe Yahweh is either the Father, the majority believe he's the Father, or a minority believe he's the Son, like the pre-incarnate Son. They think Yahweh is not a physical person, but the Old Testament clearly tells us over and over and over and over again, I have a whole video on it, that Yahweh was a physical person, not a human being, but a person with personality, a person, right? Not man, not a human, but still a person. If you encountered some ET, some alien landed in your backyard and you had a conversation for 30 seconds when they got back in and left, you would say, okay, that's not a human, but that was a person. I had a conversation with them. They're a person. They have a personality, right? Yahweh is a person. And the Old Testament very clearly states explicitly that Yahweh was not some spirit, but Yahweh has a spirit, but Yahweh himself is a physical being like you and I. It is my heart, my conviction, to work out what is true and share my findings with you. And I might be wrong, right? You know, people deceive themselves. One of my, I have lots of little sayings I've made up over the years, and one of the most popular ones is the first person you deceive is always yourself, right? And maybe I'm deceived, but we've had a lot of people that have tried to debunk the things that I have found, and they're now our greatest researchers. In fact, some of them are on the board of our nonprofit. People that have been so serious about wanting to know what is real, and they have taken a real deep look into the things that I talk about and have come to the conclusion, uncomfortable, weird, but it seems to be correct. So if you're a Christian, this will be harder for you than the non-Christian, because you already know the truth. And this is what I mean by the first person we deceive is always ourselves. Can you be curious? Can you question the things that you know to be true? That you know that you know that you know to be true? Can you question those things? I would say that if they're true, they would survive that testing, wouldn't they? That curiosity. We're not getting rid of Jesus or nor his Father. Not getting rid of Yahweh neither, although we do re-identify Yahweh correctly as the Bible identifies him, and that can be extremely uncomfortable for the Christian who believes Yahweh to be God. Just because he said he was. Right, even the devil makes himself an angel of light. It's not possible for somebody to claim they are God when they are not. You just take Yahweh's word. Oh, Yahweh said it. And what did Yeshua say about Yahweh? Why did Yahweh say that he was going to provide manna from heaven? And then Yeshua, Jesus in the New Testament, tells his followers, or the people that were listening, the manna that your ancestors received in the desert was not the true manna from heaven. Oh. Huh. And he says a bunch of other things that clearly re-identifies who Christianity claims Yahweh is. And see, the Christian will go, but here is Jesus talking about his Father all the time, Israel. Yes. But he never says that Father of his is Yahweh. Wait, what? He never says, sorry, I've got these notifications coming up, that his Father is Yahweh. You are connecting dots that are not there. You believe something that isn't true, that there's no evidence in the text for. Why does Yahweh never talk about having a son? Or if he's the incarnate, pre-incarnate son, as some smaller groups of Christian denominations claim, including Mormonism, by the way. Why doesn't, if he is the pre-incarnate Son, why does he never talk about his Father? Why does he talk about himself as being the top? Yeshua never spoke of himself like that. Now, for the non-Christian, this can just cause, mockery instead of anger. Or you, woo! I'm a pretty sensible person. I like to make videos like this because people can read you. It's different when they're just writing something you've read, and I write very differently to the way I speak. But when we look at all this evidence all around the world, all these pantheons of gods, and they're all the same people, and they talk about UFOs, and they talk about the gods coming, and, why do we have all of these similar stories all around the world? Why do we have, now you probably haven't seen a lot of the evidence of that we have in terms of archaeology in ancient cities and findings. We're finding more stuff all the time. I mean, there's a whole other older civilization right under our feet. And bit by bit, we keep discovering more and more of it and excavating it. I use that evidence to work out what's going on. My hair just looks crazy. I promise I'm not trying to look like that fuzzy-haired guy that, I don't watch TV, but I know that guy on the History Channel, which is not really a History Channel, right? That talks about aliens. Got some Greek name, I think it is. Promise I'm not trying to be like him. I need maintenance on my dreadlocks. So I don't know if you all need to see my hair. But I may be deceived. I may be wrong. It's happened before, right? But I've spent a lot of time looking at these things, and we've got a lot of people that are part of this and looking at all of this, and they're all coming to the same conclusions. And, if you've been somebody that's asked me questions and I've forced you to go back and work it out for yourself, that's the way I teach. I don't want to lead people on. I'd rather point people towards resources and say, you will find the answers here, not something I've written, usually just evidence, whether it's the Bible or something else. Because if you can get a person to go and discover something for themselves, that's a lot better than just having somebody believe in what Israel Anderson said on some internet video, and everyone wants to criticize it. Oh, this guy on YouTube? It's just the paper of today. It's the medium that we publish on today. It's a lot better than a white paper because look at you. You're watching me. You're looking at me. You're looking in my eyes. You get to see who I am. I'm not a crazy person. So after 6 years of sharing bits and pieces of this stuff, we're about to do something much, much bigger. We just became a non-profit. We are raising money to do a Bible translation that does not have the bias of this Christian explanatory mechanism. And I want to get around the world, starting here in the US, in my RV that's right here. Can't see it, but it's right here. And we're going to travel around the US and give a 2-hour talk called What is Truth? And share some of these things that no one has really ever shared before. Most of the things I found, someone else has found at some point in time. It's the way I've collated everything and pulled everything together, and I can demonstrate this is all one. It's all one story. And somebody got part of it over here, and somebody else got part of it over here. But if we can bring all these parts together, then we start to see, oh, there's one jigsaw puzzle picture coming to light here. On top of that, there are several things that are, as far as we can tell, brand new, unique discoveries. Not inventions, discoveries. I mean, worlds apart here. Not imagination. Oh, I think, no. No, I don't. What you think, what you believe is not very, very interesting to me. What I think and what I believe is not very interesting to me. I'm not a pure empiricist. I understand that not everything can be proved empirically, but it is my first port of call. I show me the evidence, right? Show me the evidence. And that's what you should be asking for too. Show me the evidence. So I want to challenge everybody, whether you are a Christian or whether you are absolutely not a Christian, okay? It doesn't matter to me. I see you as a human being. And I have found some things that if you took the time to honestly, intellectually, honestly look at, you're going to start to see that we're not blowing smoke up anyone's arse. We found some things. We've found some things that are going to rewrite human history. We are, with the Christian narrative, we will initiate a 21st century reformation as we begin to peel or expose the lies and deceptions of this Christian narrative, stuff that has nothing to do with the truth, and tell you things that Christianity has never told you. And it's taken a little bit of time to get to this point. When I found out who Yahweh really was, I sat on that for 19 months. 19 months. And we talked about it amongst the few of us. One of my great friends, Catherine Farrell, she's now passed on, a victim of the hospitals and the COVID thing. She was a fantastic researcher. And she was one of these people that was like, what is Israel going on about? And she's a Christian missionary, but also a Bible scholar, and wanted to debunk my work, and ended up being our best, most contributive researcher. I wish she was here today. But we talked about the identity of Yahweh amongst ourselves for 19 months before finally we just trying to prove ourselves wrong. Trying to find, come on, we've got to be missing something somewhere. And then finally, after 19 months, we were ready to come out and say, all right, we've done the research. We've sat on this for a long time. We've played devil's advocate. But it stands true. Yahweh is not who Christianity says he is. Well, that's a big problem, because God's religion doesn't make mistakes on the identity of Yahweh. Not in the slightest. Right? If Christianity says Yahweh is either the Father or the Son, I don't care which one they want to claim, both are wrong. If they're wrong, and I can show you they're wrong purely from the Bible alone, and not just one or two obscure passages, but over and over and over and over again, Jesus so clearly identifies who Yahweh actually is, and Christianity ignores his words. So then how can Christianity be true? But you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, if you find evidence that Jesus really was here and really did say these things, if you can find evidence of Jesus and his Father all throughout history, long before even Yahweh came to the Jews, you can't dismiss that. But you've got to start connecting the dots. And we've connected the dots in a way that creates this cohesive picture of what's actually going on. And of course, it's not in any kind of fullness. It will take, I don't know, at this pace, probably 100 years. I don't think we're going to be around then. Not like this anyway. But, we certainly have created like a scaffolding of understanding of human history. And that scaffolding is a lot better than anything anyone else has ever been able to put together before. So, this is my life now, And we're about to step into this in a much bigger way than I have ever before. About to get on the road and speak in front of public audiences and share this stuff. Because we're ready for that. It's time. And there is a message of hope here. And people need a message of hope right now. They can find hope in the truth. And if I'm wrong, then, the Christian would say, well, you're a lying deceiver, heretic, and you're going to stand before God in judgment for this insanity. Okay, I'm totally okay with that, actually. I'm totally okay with that. Because I know Yahweh is not the one who's going to be judging me. Because he's not God. The Father is the most loving being that you will ever encounter. He loved us so much that he sent his Son to come and destroy the works of Yahweh. I'm not afraid to stand before him. I love him, and I know he loves me. He loves you too. And I can't wait to tell you more about that. So thanks for watching. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. What is it? September 25, 2022. I'll be talking to you a lot more from now on. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.